Thank you for all joining our CAM webinar number 7 today. So the title is the psychological impact of smartphones on students during online learning. So we have two speakers. We have Professor Madya Dr. Narina binti Samah, and also we have Dr. Hadijah binti Jaffri. So this is some simple background of both doctors. For Professor Madya Dr. Narina, she is at the School of Education, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, UTM Johor. And she has a PhD in Bristol, UK in 2011 and awarded graduate certificate in tertiary education management from University of Melbourne, Australia in 2015. She has appointed as one of the developers and researchers for module development project, the ASEL Leadership Development Training Program in SOTL from 2011 until 2013, and has served as a trainer and facilitator for ACAP Strategic Leadership Development Program in Learning and Teaching, Scholarship of Learning and Teaching, SOTL Level 1 and so on. Okay, so this is also the background of Dr. Hadijah binti Jaffri. She is also from School of Education, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, UTM Johor. And she has a PhD in Education Psychology from University of Durham, UK. And she is actively involved in educational psychology. So for the first 1 hour, we will meet with Professor Madya Dr. Narina. And after that, at 11 o'clock, we will have a lecture from Dr. Hadijah binti Jaffri. Okay, so for that, over to you, Prof. I will give the session to you. Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi. Very good morning. Thank you, Dr. Azra, for the introduction. And also thank you to all participants who had the opportunity to join the webinar for this morning. I know that, I do hope that everybody is doing well. And it's good to know that we have some alumni here, and also one of my good friends way back in Bristol is also here, Dr. Sue. So maybe we can catch up later. So for now, I think I'll just share with you the slides first. Okay. All right. So the topic for today was given to us by the organizer. Is the psychological impact of smartphone on students during online learning. But I think the first thought that came to me when we were first given the topic is that how would we best approach this topic? But we try our best to accommodate what actually all of you need to know about the psychological impact of smartphone on students during online learning. So for today, this is the outline. So I think I will only touch on this issue or this topic around 40 minutes, and then we go for Q&A and open discussion, and then Dr. Hadijah will continue with the experience of our one of our research project, which is basically similar to the topic that we're having today. And this topic has been supported by UTM Encouragement Research Project. So after my talk, Dr. Hadijah will proceed with some of the findings that we gain through this project. And then we will proceed with the Q&A open discussion. All right. So will be good for you all? I think we have a very small group kind of a session. So I would like it to be more interactive. If you have any question or if you have any any comments or anything that came across your mind, just switch on your microphone and just chip in, because this is just I would like it to be a more of a discussion. All right. So before we proceed, let's just have a quick view our thoughts on this topic. It's not just my thoughts. It's not just Dr. Hadijah's thought. It is our thoughts on the use of smartphone, especially during the time when online learning is in a full swing at the moment. So, is it good to have smartphone use, or is it not good? So please share your views via Jamboard. So I have shared with you the link to the Jamboard. Let's see some views first, and then we proceed with what I have prepared for you guys, right? So if you can, the link is at the top of the chat box. Please let me know if you could not access. So I'll post it again. And it will bring you to this.
Access denied, Doctor.
Access denied, oh my.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Oh, no wonder. I always forgot this. Anyone with the link. Okay, hold on, I update. Done. You know, after some time of not using this, you know. All right, so I'll paste again. Okay, let me know if you can access or you cannot access. Maybe Dr. Hadijah is using Padlet later. Is it okay now? All right, we have one viewer. So any views, just a quick one will do, just to see whether it is good or not having this smartphone use, especially, you know, during our online learning and teaching. For example, with your communication with your students, communication, you know, with your colleagues. When it comes to students, maybe there are some differences in levels. UG students, quite different the way we communicate with them. With PG students, you know, postgraduate, they are quite mature. So, you know, so give some thoughts on it and share with me. I think another aspect that we need to consider is, you know, when smartphone use is kind of disruptive. Disruptive can be negative and also positive, but in a good way. Okay, depend on the situation. All right. Okay. Okay, you can use I used to use the sticky notes. It's you know, this one, sticky notes. And you can actually add in the next page if, you know, this is already full. So we have a crash course on Jamboard today. So just click here, and you can write it. And you can choose the colors of the sticky note that you want. Depend on the situation. Need to limit the use. Agree. Okay, depending on the subject of the course. Yes. I don't think it's appropriate. A theory-based course. Yeah, okay. Good view. Okay, anything else? Anything based on your the previous experience that we have with your students? Yes, I do agree. Depending on the situation, need to limit the use. Yes, sometimes it can be also disruptive to our work-life balance. You know, depending on the subject of the course. Yes, agree. Okay, anything and any other responses? Or do you have any difficulty of using Jamboard? The easiest way is, you know, just you know, click here and use the sticky note. All right, I think we'll come back to this Jamboard later on. You can continue to share with us your view, because I really need to know, this is just nak start engine, the engine nak panaskan engine. So yeah. All right, so one more coming is that it needs to adjust between advantages and yes, right? Yeah, I think it's the issue of balance. I agree with you. Yes, things to consider. All right. Okay, so please, you can share after this. It is open, but I think we should continue with the points that I'm going to share with you all. Keep the views coming in. Okay. So again, coming back to the coming back to the point where the best approach of to really address this issue. I bet that this issue is not it is not just us here that really concerned with how we use smartphone during the online learning that we have at the moment. But I think the issue of having to know there are some impact of smartphone use on learning has been, the issue has been around before, even before the pandemic started. So this is the the way that I'm going to address the issue, and thus this is how I'm going to cater in how we can discuss this issue further. So let's go back to the fundamentals of the issue, which is impact. What do you mean by impact? So if you go to any learners dictionary or any dictionary, mine is Oxford Advanced Learners. The latest one that I have at home is the 2020 version, the 10th edition. If you go to page 773, then Oxford Learners Advanced Learners Dictionary define impact of something on somebody or something as the powerful effect that something has on somebody or something. So in this context of our discussion, we're going to look at the ways that smartphone is impacting human psychology, and in this webinar's context, the psychology of our students. Yeah? And I think if we were to go beyond this, context of discussion, it also helps us to know what is the impact of smartphone use even to ourselves as an academic, as a lecturer, as a facilitator, and also you can also relate it to our role as a parents. Sometimes when we try to engage, and when we try to understand how kids engage in smartphone and what are the impacts that they have, to kids as early as kindergarten age, then we'll see with the support of literature, there's some alarming impact of the use of smartphone even among little kids. So when we talk about student approach is, let's look at students from the age of right up until school level, right up until tertiary level. That is the kind of students that we have at the moment. So this is kind of a cute picture. Parents in restaurants, and when they want to keep their kids quiet, they always give something, for the kids to have the gadget. And the easiest access is always the parents' smartphone. Okay, now ambil, and then okay, have your lunch or dinner. Okay, ambil ni. And then they go and access kids programs, videos over the YouTube, and they senyap lah, and then they continue with their meal. So we see this often in everywhere we go, especially in supermarkets, in shopping complex. These things happen. But the question is, why should we worry? Why should we worry of observing kids with gadgets, and very engrossed with it, and the fact that as you can see in this picture, it's very way that this little boy is holding the gadget itself is not quite healthy, in the sense that it's very near to the eyes. So what will happen to him in 10 years time? Maybe he'll need a pair of glasses. So another cute picture. In our day, back in our days, I grew up in the 70s and the 80s. We don't have this kind of gadget. The only phone that we have is dumb phone and the dial phone, the one that this kid have at the moment. So as technology advanced, phone become dumb phone, then we have the smartphone, and I mean the term keeps on evolving just to portray the advancement of technology that we have at the moment, right? So this is regarding to the question of why should we worry about this phenomenon. I'm not quite sure how many of you have read this, but this is published sometime last month. This is by one of the columnists of NST, Razak. He is actually director himself of International Islamic University, and he highlighted. I mean, the article is based on was based on a journal article published in Computers in Human Behavior, and the significance of this study is that it highlighted that among the 24 selected countries that had been administered the survey, Malaysia is in the third position with cell phone addiction. Right? So imagine, I think this is quite. So it's quite alarming to know that among these 24 selected countries, Malaysia is in the third position. That reflects, the kind of impact that smartphone or cell phone had to our Malaysian citizens. And so I think we get back to this later, and we'll see what Tan Sri Zul suggests later. What can we do about it when we know these things is happening at the moment? And again, this is regarding to the age group that we're going to understand what are the impacts of smartphone within the age group that we're having at the moment. So if you go to the website of MCMC, Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, beginning 2005, they had this survey going on, and they have been compiling this. If you go to the website, they offer you the access to download. You can just download the reports. But the latest report, I think the latest one was published in 2018, and after that, no more reports from this website. So we were hoping that there are some latest reports on this, so that we can catch up with what is happening. With the use of smartphones and handphones among Malaysians. So again, what I'm going to highlight here is this is based on the Handphone User Survey 2014, and this is just to see the phone users, the age group that became the dominant age group for in the use of handphones. As you can see, this is the student age groups, which is a school level, and this is if you include 15 years old to 24, this is where most of our students fall under this category. So as you can see, these are the data that had been shared with us based on the survey on 2014. But let's look at the survey done and being published for 2017. This is the percentage distribution of smartphone owners by age group and adoption rate of smartphone owners by age group. And as you can see, of course, majority of them falls under 20 to 34 years old. And again, we can relate to this data because, you know, most of our students fall under this age group, right? And the latest one is 2018. And again, we are looking at the age group and we can see that, you know, if you go to the age group, the smartphone users are majority you know, falls under this age group. Not denying, but if we do not consider what kind of impact that smartphone had on our students, then I think as lecturers or facilitators, we often overlooked of, I mean, the pattern of smartphone usage among students. Some people say, well, some students, you know, they have the smartphone, but in terms of using it for online learning or learning purposes, it's quite questionable. There's a big question. Majority of us always assume that you know, our students had this kind of gadgets, you know, just to, you know, search for something else, or maybe playing games, and not really optimize it in using it for online learning process. So that would be our assumptions, but I think it's open to discussion later. But I think these are the data that really define the age group and the use of smartphone in Malaysia. So according to this report by UNICEF, digital technology and why this is related to smartphone, because, you know, smartphone and, you know, iPads and tablets are just the gadgets in order to access to this digital technology that we have at the moment. And according to this report, digital technology has already changed the world. This is a 2017 report. I think it's quite relevant until now. And as more and more children go online around the world, it is increasingly changing childhood and even adolescent and even young adults that we have at the university at the moment. So according to this report, youth ages 15 to 24 is the most connected age group. Worldwide, 75% are online compared to 48% of the total population. And children and adolescents under 18 account for an estimated 1 in 3 internet users around the world. A growing body of evidence indicates that children are accessing the internet at increasingly younger ages. In some countries, children under 15 are as likely to use the internet as adults over 25. And smartphones are fueling a bedroom culture. This is mentioned in the report. With online access for many children becoming more personal, more private, and less supervised, especially when this is especially among parents who are, you know, raising TikTok generations. You know, these are the things, and you do not know, you know, what the kid is doing in their own bedroom with their gadgets. But I think if they're using TikTok for a positive purpose, it's okay. Not vice versa. So this is the paper, just a bit about the paper that my PhD students at that time, my Manvin, prepared for a conference, and this paper had been selected for publication. And it has been indexed in ERA, not Scopus, just ERA. But I tried to share this paper on ResearchGate, and since 2018, I think I just, you know, if you subscribe to ResearchGate, every time that, you know, you have reached a milestone and all that, you know, they will give you some notification. So I think I received one email saying that, okay, this paper had reached like 100,000 reads. So that reflects that people are very much interested interested in, in exploring the topic of the impact of smartphone. So what I can, summarize from this paper is that this is what my student had do. I mean, she did a very basic literature review, and what she found is that, when it comes to the impact of smartphone on students, there are three categories. One is the impact is on the education, which is the learning process, and also social interaction and psychological health. So these are the three main categories that when you talk about impact of smartphone on students, these are the three big categories that it falls into. So the first one is the education aspect of smartphone use, which involve learning process. So there are some positive and negative. Positive side, it enhances students' teacher interaction, motivation, engagement, and learning resources. But the negative one is always about the attention, distraction, and also this will also distract memory. Like working memory, nowadays students have a less working memory compared than before. So when if the use of smartphone really affect working memory and affect the attention of the students, then that will also affect how they perform in their academic activities. When it comes to social interaction, there's always positive and negative impact as well. So positive impact is like social networking, connectedness. This is important, especially during the pandemic, and also access to resources. Again, during the pandemic, for example, students cannot go to the library. What they can do is that they just rely on their smartphones or gadgets in order to get through the references that they want. And the negative impact is real life social interaction, relationship issue, quality of conversation, again, the bedroom culture and cyberbullying. So these are the among the negative impact that is suggested throughout the literature that we found. And again, psychological health. Well, in a way, the use of smartphone had been it has been made evident that the use of smartphone can help enhance the psychological well-being. For example, if you go to IGs and if you see something which is motivational, the content is motivational, then it is good for your own motivation and your well-being. And even when we see content that can help us to feel happy, the feel good content, then it helps us to be happy, in the sense that it helps us to elevate the mood, etc., etc. So it can be it can have some positive impact, or if you choose the right content to access. But contrary, the content can also enhance or influence the mood, in the sense that it can make people depressed, anxious, lower level of empathy, less happy, from habits to addiction. This is especially when the when we spend too much time on the content itself, and of course cyberbullying. So again, let's try to relate to the current situation at the moment. Russian invasion to Ukraine. I for the first week or 2 years, I try to update myself with what is happening. But after some time, and with all those images and all that, I try to not to being bogged down with all those conflict. But in a way, I try to understand why the conflict happens. That will be, again, it depends on the content that we choose in order for us to know better about. For example, in my case, I need to know why this conflict happens. So you have to dig into the historical background and all that. So again, my point is the content, the right kind of content that we choose for ourselves. Okay, I'll try to update you with the current literature, because the paper that I had with my PhD student is on it stops right until 2017. So last night I managed to just do a quick survey on the Web of Science. And if I were to type impact plus smartphones plus students, so what kind of studies that I can get from the literature? And surprisingly, from WOS, there are about 276 results, which is the articles that reports on the findings on similar topics on impact of using smartphone. So based on the survey, I think I picked one or two or even three that are most relevant to us. And this one is again a report from Australia. This is on the impact of mobile digital devices in school, which also includes smartphone. And these are the again, there are some correlation with what we found in our paper just now, and it encompasses the same themes like cyberbullying, exposure to inappropriate material, social interaction, mental health, physical health, and distraction from schoolwork. So this is the impact of smartphone use on and other gadgets among school children. And if you go one by one, again, the psychological impact of the use of gadget when it comes to cyberbullying, it will cause psychological distress, like feeling unsafe, uncared for, lower self-esteem, even lead to substance abuse. It can cause moderate to severe depressive symptoms, suicidal ideation, and suicide attempts. When it comes to exposure to inappropriate material, there's a potential interaction with strangers. It can lead to self-harm, eating disorder. Nowadays we have a whole load of Instagrammers promoting beauty and promoting self-care and all that. So it may cause positive and also negative impact to the ones that watch it, especially among kids, among children. And it also can lead to pornography, sexting, pedophilia, and also cyberbullying. Social interaction, of course, kids nowadays, if they are too engaged in gadgets, playing, all those online games and all that, so it will limit their face-to-face interaction among students. But again, during the pandemic, during the isolation, I think the lesser the social interaction became, especially during the peak of the pandemic. And also distractions in having meaningful interaction and decreased social interactions. Of course, mental health, most of the symptoms are related to depression and also suicide. Suicide is when the symptoms have become severe. Towards the end of the stage of depression, patients or students can have that suicidal thoughts in them. And this has happened to us even in School of Education. I think maybe Dr. Hadijah can share the experience of having to know like some students, surprisingly it was an adult learners and PG students having all these kind of thoughts and during the pandemic. So you can see the impact of isolation could be, the impact of not really know how to balance between work and life. And again, it can enhance the symptoms. Of course, when you're engaged too much on with the gadgets, then you have this high sedentary time. You're sitting quite a lot. I think two of my colleagues are having these sleep days because of the online learning itself, because it pushes to the limit where we can sit for how many hours per day. and lower involvement in physical activity and lower fitness. Distraction from schoolwork includes effect on academic performance, and I think that wraps up all this impact of mobile digital devices in schools. This is reported by one of the reports from the Australian government. And again, if you go to the latest literature on the impact, I've found this from PLOS One. PLOS One is quite a good journal. It's a Q1 or Q2 ranking journal. And interestingly, this paper introduced us with the term nomophobia, which caused by the excessive use of smartphone. It is defined as an uncontrollable fear of leaving home without a mobile phone. So imagine nowadays if, you know, halfway to your work and you realize that, oh, I left my handphone at home. The first thought is whether you want to U-turn and, you know, you get your handphone at home, or you can, if you have a meeting, then you have to, you have to go straight to work and proceed with the meeting. But even if you are attending a meeting without your handphone at your side, it can cause, it happened to me as well. Yeah. So this phenomenon is what they call as nomophobia. The term is an abbreviation of the expression no mobile phone phobia. So it can cause symptoms such as anxiety, emotional instability, aggressiveness, and difficulty concentrating. I'm not quite sure about aggressiveness. So this is like you're cranky when you're not, when your handphone is not around. So you become a bit cranky or crabby. I used to know that some people, when they're hungry, they're crabby or cranky. But now the paper suggests that if you do not have your handphone near you, you can be quite crabby or cranky as well. So this is one interesting piece of work. Another one is, again, in 2018, mobile phone use and mental health. So this is based on the study on, I think it's a literature review as well, systematic literature review or meta-analysis. And it says here that 1/3 of the studies included children and youth. The main research results included association between frequent mobile phone use and mental health outcomes, such as depressive symptoms and sleep problems. I think this is what is happening among most of our UG, if not most, but I think quite a majority of them, where I can observe that the sleep pattern is not that stable. For example, they can stay up until 4 o'clock or 5 a.m. in the morning, just for playing games, and that will cause them to miss their 8 a.m. classes. So I think the approach that I took last time is that I asked students, if last semester I had this 8 a.m. class, and I can sense that if I were to start my class at 8 a.m. on the dot, not many of them can sign in on time. So what I did is that, okay, we're going to start at 15 past 8. But if you know that some of our friends are not awake, please, wake them up and remind them that, we have a class at 8 a.m. Because I know that, some of them, due to this boredom or whatever, they tend to spend more time playing games, online games, throughout the night, and they will miss their morning classes. Again, this is the paper, the recent one, 2022, the one that had been cited by Tan Sri Zul in his newspaper column. This is the actual paper that he cited. And again, what I'm more concerned is the last line here. We suggest that the clinical interpretation of this course should be updated given current global trends, meaning that after we have known about all this, you know, impact of smartphone use and all that, what can we do about it? You know, because the patterns of when you do the literature review, we can see that most of the research on the impact of smartphone use among children or adolescent or students are more on the negative side of it. It can cause mental health. It can cause the you know, it can create some, you know, psychological symptoms. But not many, you know, literature that focus on the positive. There were, and they still are, but the gap is very huge, meaning that most of the research are focusing on the negative effect of or negative impact of smartphone use among students, children, and adolescents. So again, the point is, after we have known all these symptoms, all this impact, negative impact, what can we do about it? So again, coming back to the points given by Tan Sri Zul, with the study results, Malaysia must do something before it become addicted to technology. So this opened up for us as academics, as researchers in tertiary education level. I think this is one of the opportunities for research. So maybe we can respond to the findings, you know, obtained by recent literature. Then after we have known all this, the phenomenon that happened, so how to go about with it, how to respond to it, how to address the issue and all that. So this is a bit about smartphone use during online learning and teaching process, the UTM experience. This is just a sharing of experience that we have, both of us, Dr. Hadijah and I, had been pair teaching for a PG course. We teach research methodology for taught course master program, and since last semester, I teach research method for undergraduate course. So imagine the learning outcome would be after the student had gone through all the 14 weeks, at the end of the semester, they need to produce a brief proposal. So, you know, when you teach research method, I know that Dr. Azhar is here. If you happen to attend our research method classes, and you know the assignments that you need to complete at the end of the semester. So it is more of a project base in a sense. But along the way, we don't have final exam nowadays, but we have like 8 assignments. And imagine you have to, you have to facilitate students to complete all the 8 assignments in order for them to complete the research methodology courses. So I'm showcasing this experience and sharing with you all this morning. So these are the guidelines that we have that our CTL had provided us with. So, and it matches with the kind of approach that we want to. It is up to us to choose whether we want to do it synchronous or synchronous or project based. It's up to us, but with with justification and with the structured way of doing it, right up until the online assessment tools. So given the choice, so for me and for Dr. Hadijah, I'm just sharing with you, when it comes to smartphone use in supporting online learning, I think in our case, we optimize the use of Telegram because we could not afford to entertain individual students at times. In our case, for us, smartphone use is very important in the sense that it's supporting online learning, be it asynchronous, be it synchronous, be it project-based, but the use of smartphone here is to serve online learning. So for example, it provide the prompt communication with students. It provide the initial engagement. This is especially true when we want to start the first meeting. So because we have not, met the student before this, so how would we, initiate that first communication? So I think smartphones is vital at this stage of the class. But as we move on to the the next week or the later weeks, like in week 2, 3, 4, I believe that smartphone use is vital for us to give prompt feedback for class activities. So this is the example of how we discuss one topic, which is problem formulation in research. And we always use Jamboard, and from this how Dr. Hadijah follow up the activities of the students. And by this, I believe that we provide continuous scaffolding to the students. Like we have gone through all this Jamboard presentation in Jamboard, then of course we gave them prompt feedback during the class, but for supporting element of the class, we always do follow up through Telegram, and this is where smartphone use is at its the use is at peak. And again, we can provide this continuous scaffolding when for example, students give them their draft. So what I usually do is that I will give written comments, use my tablet and all that, and I provide them with Google Drive, both of us, and the reviewed draft can be accessed by the students, because then they know what are the things that they need to refine. And after that, we will keep on reminding them, okay, if you go through your reviewed draft, then you can do so with things and all that. So I think, again, through Telegram, and this is where we provide the continuous scaffolding for our students. Again, for me, this is a sample of how what through really scribble and all that with the tablet and the pencil, iPencil and all that, and know what to refine. So before refinement of RORQs, our research objective and research questions, and this is after the refinement. So it's just one of the examples of how things work out after the year. So I think what we did is actually this is when we remind the students again. So I'll be evaluating whose draft. So through this process, I believe that this is how we can do mentoring and also coaching. And all this can be supported by the use of our handphones among students, even among ourselves. So again, coming back, for better or for worse, I think the bottom line is, be it smartphone or any gadget, iPad or mini iPad or any digital gadget. For me, what I can summarize is that whatever it is, as academic, we need to have these three kind of knowledge. I bet most of you are familiar with this model, TPAC. TPAC has been around since 2006. This is an idea put forward by Mishra and Kohler. And according to this research, they say that it is best that we integrate our pedagogical knowledge or content knowledge together with technological knowledge. And I think with the pandemic era, we have no choice but to enhance our technological knowledge in tandem with our pedagogical and content knowledge. So to summarize my part, I would like to share with you this very nice piece of paragraph. Again, coming back to this report by UNICEF, as the influence of digital technology and especially the internet has increased, the debate about its impact has grown louder. Is it a boon to humankind, offering unlimited opportunity for communication and commerce, learning, and free expression, or is it a threat to our way of life, undermining the social fabric, even the political order, and threatening our well-being? You can see that the president of Ukraine every day, he has this live video of what is happening. Whether we like it or not, whether it has negative or positive impact, I think smartphone or like any other gadgets has some parts to play in our role as academics and as how we attend our students during our online learning. So for that, I think I end my talk now, and I open for any discussion or any reflection. If not question, any discussion. Oh, sorry, it's already 11. Sorry, Dr. Hadijah.
It's okay.
Okay,
Mine is just sweet and short and sweet.
okay, so thank you, Dr. Narina. So maybe we save the question later for, we will continue with Dr. Hadijah first, then we wrap up with the questions from the participants later. Okay?
Okay, I will share my slide. What I'm going to discuss is basically on our research and what have been done. And this research is basically based on a PhD project, and later on we got a UTM grant to support our research project. So it's a bit outline of the discussion. So I will recap a bit about the statistics in general and how does it resonate with our findings. So to date, this one is taken from Statistica. We have to pay to get an extensive graph or data from statistica.com. But to up until 2020, this is the latest data, and they are still compiling for 2021. So in the millions in Malaysia, there are around 20.6 smartphone users, and there's a slightly increase from 2019. And this can be projected based on what's happening due to the pandemic and so forth. And when it comes to the duration of internet using, it doesn't relate to smartphone per se, but also perhaps using other devices such as laptop, computer. But when it comes to the internet using by Malaysian, we can see there is a slightly change of pattern. Previously, in 2019, there is some sort of like high users in terms of internet using, around 1 to 4 hours, and this is quite low. But as you can see from 2020, all these users and move on to increase the usage from 1 to 2 hours, perhaps to more than 5 hours, up until 18 hours. So it is kind of alarming, especially when we look at our biological needs when it comes to sleeping pattern and what's not. If we use more than 18 hours of internet, meaning that it might affect our sleeping pattern and so forth. And it's not only will affect our psychological aspect, but also on the physical aspect. And when it comes to this depression, these are the things that I think I want to share with you based on a session that I attended yesterday with one of our counselor about UTM staff and students. And when it comes to depression, in terms of the cases, it's high increases since the pandemic. And one of the reasons is because of lack of sleep. And then when they dig deeper, it is due to use of internet. It could be work related, it could be learning related, but sometimes we don't specifically use internet for work or learning related, but sometimes as a mean to relaxation, but it's prolonged the duration inevitably. Okay, and it's kind of alarming lah if we don't do something about it. And from the statistic, Department of Statistics Malaysia, and it is a bit outdated in 2018. So there are certain kind of we can see that slightly change of data in terms of access to mobile phone, in terms of access to internet, in which in the recent years, 2020, there are, you can see the number is increasing when it comes to the mobile phone, in terms of the computer, when it comes to the internet, and it perhaps align with the current situation that we are having with the pandemic, and the trend is going up. I think it's not going down anywhere soon. And in this case, I think that internet usage, smartphone usage become part of our life. So like what Dr. Narina said, is we are perhaps might experience nomophobia, meaning that no mobile phone phobia, meaning we feel uncomfortable, we feel restless, and when we are not having our smartphone near us. So it is kind of alarming. If you're not controlling it, it can be some sort of like lead to something kind of psychological disorder that we might not aware of, that when it comes to especially depression, sometimes it's based on what is being found out, that we might having depression without knowing it, and that is some sort of like very alarming if you are not aware of it. Okay. When it comes to the popular activities of internet use, I will share our own findings among students, meaning that majority use internet or smartphone for the sake of social networking, and as well as finding information and so forth. But in our studies, in terms of the smartphone usage especially, so the percentages might be slightly different, because the students have variety of students have a different some sort of purposes and in terms of the priorities. So it might not be some sort of like quite similar when it comes to the popular masses. Okay, this is our study, and these are some of the research questions that we post in our research, and that these are the findings that I will share. And what kind of stressor that triggers the needs of students to use smartphone? We are looking at is it related to academic stressor or the psychological stressor that triggers for them to use smartphone? The second one is about what are the motivation strategies that students use when they are regulating the stress through smartphone, meaning they use smartphone as a tool to regulate the stress. In terms of the emotional strategies, whether they look at information, for example, to relieve stress or other purpose. And the third question is about what motivates students to use smartphone. It's slightly different from the stressor, because in this case, we are looking at the motive, in terms of once you use it, what lead to the regularity or the consistencies of students to use smartphone. So it creates some sort of like pattern, and so in this case, it become a motivation in itself. And the last is how do students perceive this qualitative research data. How do students perceive the impact of smartphone during COVID-19 on their life? So we look at certain kind of patterns which resonate with the kind of stressor as well as the emotional strategies that they use. So, okay, a bit of their demographic data. So it involved around 374 undergraduate students, and some of the purposes of using internet in general is searching for information, social networking, and you can see some sort of like similarity with the overall generic data provided by the Department of Statistics Malaysia. But here there's an element of playing games. So it might resonate with the kind of cohort, I mean the undergraduate students, meaning they are between 18 to 23 years old. So playing games perhaps become parts of the purposes of using internet in this case, other than learning related materials or searching information. Learning related methods meaning that they use some sort of like certain kind of platforms for to complete assignments and so forth. Okay, when it comes to the duration of smartphone use, it is based on our data. We can see that majority of students spend around 8 to 12 hours. And more than 12 hours, meaning even though it seems not many, but we look at specifically into the smartphone usage, not the internet usage. So it might be some sort of like an additional information in which that they might use their laptop to use the internet. So meaning or use another devices, not only smartphone, but it could be tab and so forth. But here we can see that the pattern is similar when it comes to the overall usage of internet. At least 8 to 12 hours of using smartphone is quite high duration, quite prolonged duration in itself. You just imagine like if you wake up around like 6 a.m., meaning you use a smartphone from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it is almost half of the day. So it is quite alarming. When is the time that students should spend on other things? For example, for exercise, for taking a break, or to sleep, and so forth. So, what kind of stressor is one of the first questions? One of the questions that we ask that trigger the needs for students to use smartphone. And there are two types of stressor that we look at, if the academic stressor as well as psychological stressor. The academic stressor, one of it is academic demands and task difficulty, meaning that you feel difficult in completing a task and then you need to find out information and so forth. So it might give you certain kind of stress, in this case related to academic stressor. So psychological stressor, parental expectation here, meaning that students are aware about what are the parental expectations, especially when it comes to their academic performance. Not only that, some students during the pandemic, during the first MCO, some of the students are in the campus. So you just imagine they cannot go back to their home, and then that creates some sort of like additional stressor. They feel that to what extent that I have to fulfill my parents' expectation in terms of keeping in touch and so forth, as well as a peer relationship, meaning to keep connected, to maintain the relationship and friendship with their peers. So this is a type of stressor. So we found that students rely, what triggered them to use smartphone is due to psychological stressor. They feel they want to have certain kind of connectedness with their friends. They want to maintain a relationship with the parents, and they want to fulfill the parents' expectation. So what trigger them to use smartphone is due to social stressor. Okay. And when it comes to how they regulate, what are the emotional strategies that they use through smartphone, there are two. types of strategy used, cognitive reappraisal as well as expressive suppression. For cognitive reappraisal, meaning changing current thoughts, heightened awareness of emotions, expressive suppression, meaning keeping things to oneself, and you suppress the current emotion. You try to hide your current feelings and you don't let other people know. So it was found that students use cognitive appraisal more as compared to expressive suppression. So we can see also the pattern of unsatisfied students giving certain kind of comment on UTM confess. It is not an official UTM website or platform, but students used to let out their feelings, meaning they know what their feelings, rather than they keeping to themselves. So they change their train of thoughts, meaning say that, I have to express myself because I need to regulate how I feel by letting out their emotions, and even though it's kind of be a negative thing, because people know. Sometimes they mention even the lecturer's name or other things that being done, and sometimes it's just a minor, perhaps a miscommunication things, but it can be escalated into something bigger. But here, how to regulate their emotion, even though using a cognitive reappraisal, it can be turned into negative things, rather than you change current thoughts from positive to negative, you can do otherwise, and from negative you can from the positive you have a positive current thoughts, but then due to the things going on around, you might change it into negative thoughts. And these are the things that I found from my students. In one of my classes, I taught PG students. For PG students, majority of them they are working, but during the pandemic, some of them, this is especially the first MCO, whereby our classes are conducted through physical as well as the online. Meaning physical, meaning before the MCO was implemented. So the students know what are they missing out. And one of the students feel that the sense of loneliness, even though they feel, even though in this case she feels that she needs to change the current thoughts and what's not, but it is not easy. And what she did is she relied on a smartphone as a companion to change some sort of like a physical friends that you can meet face to face, but you rely on a tool. And when there is a time when she have this some sort of like problems with the data plan and with the internet connectivity, so meaning she feels like she is with some sort of like the feeling of loneliness is quite very unbearable for her. And then as a result of that, one of the things that she did is at the end of the semester, we had a final examination, but then she did not submit the final examination. So she got like 30 marks less from the rest of the team members. So it's kind of some sort of like a phenomenon that we need to be aware of, how the students regulate their emotions, and sometimes they need some sort of like certain kind of tips that we can share and that we can practice. Sharing is one thing, but to practice it another thing. And it was found that cognitive appraisal is being used by most of the students, for undergraduate student in this case, which is can be a good thing, but we have to be look at carefully in terms of changing the current thoughts. Is it from positive to negative or the other way around? if the other way around, so we need to do something about it as well. Okay, and what motive students use to use smartphone? So we find out that there are two types of motivation. What are the things that prompt or drive students to use smartphone? In this case, either they use for ritualistic motivation or instrumental motivation. So ritualistic motivation, majority of them use it in which that they rely on smartphone for entertainment, for companionship. In this case, they treat smartphone as a companion, as a replacement of a physical friend. It's no longer maintaining social relationship, but they use it as a some sort of like a physical things that they can still touch and within their range to keep them company. So this is some sort of like quite prevalent, I think, during this current time, whereby due to the limitation of face-to-face, and when we conduct this research, we are still undergoing the second and the third MCO. So when it comes to the SOP, is quite stringent as compared to now, whereby we are much more flexible and going out and so forth. And how do students perceive in terms of the impacts of smartphone? It is based on their personal perceptions. What are they reveal to us through interview. Okay. So in terms of the positive impacts of smartphone, there are 5. One, easy to keep updated with information using a small palm-sized device, and you don't have to carry a laptop and whatnot. So you can keep yourself updated using a smartphone, which you can carry everywhere. And it is also for learning. And I remember one of my undergraduate students, her laptop was damaged. The screen is cracked. So she used a Words app, Words document apps on the phone, and then to type the answer for the final examination. So I also learned something new, meaning, there is a device, there is an app that I can download on my smartphone, then I can type and use it. But it's kind of give us some sort of like physical strain, meaning that you just imagine you are looking at a very small device to type. So eye strain, neck strain and so forth. But again, I put that aside. Using a smartphone, you can still access to learning. You can still, in this case, and she still can complete the final examination. And the third is to stay connected. This relates to instrumental motivation, meaning that we use students use a smartphone to stay connected with family members, friends, due to the limitation of face-to-face contact. And they also use smartphone as a platform to fill daily needs. For example, online shopping, and some of them did online businesses, and they use smartphone extensively for this purpose. As well as the fifth one is about provide distraction to avoid loneliness. They feel that having a smartphone, they can get certain kind of distraction from feeling loneliness. And in this case, we can view it in a positive way. And we can have a look at certain kind of extract. I will show you some of the extracts from the excerpt. And to stay connected with others, we get to talk to our family members, can easily communicate with people we cannot meet, chatting with group members, for sending assignment, which is important. When you are learning, you have to still do group assignments, and then through a smartphone, it's quite easy for you to exchange, for example, file as compared to using laptop, for example. To connect it with lecturer, to know in terms of assignments, in terms of classes, and so forth. and easy to keep update with information. So some people use it know the generic information, what's going on with the pandemic, or for certain kinds of purpose. If for this case, the students is selling certain things. Means she has a online business. So to check reviews, for example, whether the seller is fake or like real, and so forth. And when it comes to provide distraction to avoid loneliness, we can see that they use smartphone as a means to get certain kind of entertainment to keep themselves busy. For example, some of them use to videos, for example, to keep up with the hobbies, interests, for example, learning musical instruments, or use smartphone to play games. When you play game, you are in a state of flow, and then time passes by without you know it. And in this case, a student feel less lonely that way, because they feel that the time is fulfilled with certain kind of activity. And when it comes to accessibility for online learning, it is quite some sort of like straightforward thing. Most of the assignments, lectures, and so forth are using Google Meet, Telegrams, and everything is online. And then they are having online classes, so it's really important for them to have a smartphone. And to fulfill daily needs, for example, they use a smartphone to get work done. Work here might be generic, it could be related to learning, it could be related to perhaps a business that they are using. And for my personal experience, I know that some of my undergraduate students, for the male students, they work as a food panda rider. And especially last year during Ramadan, I had a class with them around from around noon, around 11 to 1. So I wonder, the same person, they don't attend classes for around 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so. And then one of the friends said that, Doctor, this guy is is a rider, a food panda rider. So to fulfill the demand for raya, so there are lots of order coming in, and then there is a one time I noticed that during a discussion, he tried very much to participate in class discussion. So I can hear, like vehicles moving in. So it seems like he's outside. So I asked him, where are you? Oh, in the junction, that while waiting for the order. So he keep attending the classes. So in this case, we can say that having a smartphone allow them to fulfill all these daily needs, not only attending classes, but also to work, and in this case as a food panda rider. So what are the negative impacts of smartphone? This is based on their perception, even though we cannot tell much about the psychological impacts in terms of depression and what sort. But when we look at in terms of the strain, when it comes to they get distracted a lot or interrupted while attending online classes, they do acknowledge that, as well as they are aware that they are using smartphone longer than they should or previously done. From sometimes they say that before the pandemic 6 hours, but it double up into 12 hours. And then when it comes to the distraction, it is, I think, quite common, among us as well. Sometimes we forgot to in my case, sometimes I forgot to log out from Telegram, and sometimes I can get a notification from my Telegram messages and what's not while having classes. And this kind of things is, the same thing with the students. While they are having classes, their Telegram, their WhatsApp messages, right, in which they install the apps on their laptops, and it keep on popping up while attending classes. And so it might give them a distraction, or interrupt the trains of thoughts while they are attending classes. And there are certain kind of things that we find out from the research. It is not based on the question that we ask, but it's certain kind of personal insight, I think, that we might learn something from it. For example, in terms of the importance of awareness, what are the positive and negative impacts on ourselves based on available literature. Sometimes you can even Google up the positive and negative impacts of smartphone, and you can get certain kind of information, and for the students, they are aware about the positive as well as the negative impacts, the advantages or disadvantages of using smartphone. But here, having the awareness what is the positive and negative impacts, they just focus on the positive effects, and then due to that, they're able to control in terms of the purposes of using the smartphone, as well as control the duration. How long should they use smartphone? So, but unfortunately, these are coming from 2 respondents from out of 9 respondents that our students interviewed. So for these 2 students, they know that having awareness that will help them in terms of enhancing their self-control of using smartphone. I think it's really important to have this, and then perhaps to remind our students or remind ourselves when we are using smartphone. I think that's all for me. So is there any question? I think I want to do certain kind of activity if we have time. Masa tak?
Masih. Masih
Masih,
doktor. Masih.
Sekejap. I want to do an in this case, I think all of us have experience dealing with students as well as using smartphone ourselves. So perhaps can we share our experiences about how to control and manage the use of smartphone? And perhaps when we collect these all tips from you guys, we can perhaps share it with others as well as our students later on. I think UNIMAS have started your classes right now at UTM. We are going to start our class on 27 March, another 2 more weeks also. So can we have a quick, based on your personal experience, or perhaps from your students' experience, and how to control and manage the use of smartphone? I mean, something that's really effective. Like in my case, when I just bought my tab, it has a certain kind of automatic setting that once it reached to 7 p.m., the tab is automatically shut off. I cannot turn it on up until the next morning at 7 a.m. Okay? So I know that is a specific setting that prompt us, push us to stop using device at certain time, and then whether we like it or not, we cannot turn it on. We cannot turn on. We cannot use until a specific time when we are allowed, permitted to use the device itself. Meaning there's a certain kind of setting in our devices that perhaps we are not aware of, but actually it does have that kind of setting. We can set the time, meaning set the time in the device. It's not like, okay, just put alarm clock. Yeah, have physical activities. Some of us, in my case, sometimes after Asar, around 5, I will go out to do gardening for around 1 hour or so. So I will be deviceless when I do gardening. At least I will be around 2 hours without device. But when it comes to design activities that require physical movement, does it relate to the assignment that we give to students, or the task that we assign to ourselves? Set the time limit, yes, I do agree with that. But in my case, sometimes it doesn't work because sometimes some of the admin people also, still keep messaging us during after 9. I still remember when we are having semakan curriculum curriculum revision. So we still using our devices up until 12 at night. People are keep on getting messages, in this case sending and receiving messages through smartphone. We're still using smartphone up until 12 p.m. That is only a couple of days, but it gives a certain kind of some sort of like the changes of the current practice. Yeah. So we have only like it's coming, okay, time management. Yeah. I think time management is very it's a skill in itself. And I noticed that among my undergraduate students, they have hard time to manage their time, especially when they are start to get addicted in playing games, online games. And I had undergraduate students like Dr. Narina. I'm not sure whether it is the same students or not, but we have to remind one of the classmates. In this case, I remind one of their classmates to knock on the door. It means some of the students are already in the campus. They are allowed to go back to campus if they have a certain kind of limitation of internet access at their home and what's not. So you then allow that. But then, unfortunately, for this kind of students, because they have that kind of pattern already when they are stuck at home, so when they come to campus, it is very hard for them to manage their time. And then they still some sort of like so used to certain kind of routine. For example, playing games up until wee hours, and then they have a hard time to wake up for morning classes. To wake up and attend morning classes. It's kind of unfortunate, especially for us being assigned classes at 8 a.m. Because we can see the low attendance due to that. Okay, we have like 6 examples here. Thank you for sharing. With that, I end out my sessions. So we can go straight to a Q&A, question and answer. So,
okay. So I will open for question and answer from the participants. If you have any question, you can just unmute your mic, and also you can type in the chat box. Semua senyap. Okey, Doktor. Saya nak tanya AP Dr. Narina dulu lah. Okay, so what is the biggest achievement and outcomes of the research tool?
I think the finding, we just finalized the finding because our student will have to submit the thesis by the end of March, I think.
tomorrow.
Because she's already achieved the ceiling and 16 semesters. Achievement wise, I think we are planning to publish into papers lah, or one of the KPIs of the research grant if you receive a research grant, of course you have to comply by the KPI kan. One of the KPI is publication. Apart from that, we try to share the findings. Yep. Like from through this platform, and of course conference lah. Other than that, Dr. Azhar, I'm not quite sure what to obtain the achievement.
So in terms of how you can manage the psychology of the students when dealing with the smartphone itself.
I think because of the sample of the study is within the student of UTM, right? So generalization wise, I think sample size is quite small, 300 something. We may use the information, the finding that we have. Maybe you can share with those from the we have colleagues from the panel of guidance and counseling, so we could share that with her as well.
Okay, so we have Prof. Sova here. She want to ask something, I think.
Thank you very much, Dr. Azra. Thank you very much, speakers, for the valuable sharing. There are a lot that I have learned, and I'm sure the rest also have learned about, the behavior of our students, especially during this pandemic, and how we could assist in many ways. Yeah. My question is, you have got these valuable findings. Has it been shared with your university? If I may ask that, have you shared with your own university? And what are the possible, if they are consulting you, if the university administration is consulting you, okay, we have found this behavior among our students. What are the steps that we need to take to make the learning environment healthy? If you could, share with us.
If Dr. Hadijah wants to respond, because she's the principal investigator.
For the grant, not. We just completed actually the data collection last year, somewhere in early December. So from December and January, February, our research assistant, which is the PhD students, really cramming to complete her thesis. And what the things that I shared with you guys is actually some of the things that she thinks that, I cannot put this in my thesis. So I told Dr. Narina, said that never mind, we, we just use this platform to share. So we just give you something like fresh from the oven, actually, from Sabah. So that we are planning to do so, inshallah, once everything is settled, because there are certain kind of data that have not been finalized yet or analyzed yet. So what she did is just analyze what is needed for her PhD research, and even though the research grant, there are certain kind of additional elements that we requested her to find out more for our research purposes and not for her PhD research purposes. So for that kind of data, we are still in the process of analyzing. Yeah. I think I hope that answer your question, Prof. Sova.
I think I'd like to add one more. In UTM, there is another platform that you can actually share the findings of our research. And our Office of Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research and Innovation had this a magazine called Nexus. And with this magazine, we can actually, as I said, share the findings, especially from those who receive grants, internal grants and the grant from outside UTM. And most probably after we have finalized everything, we have to check the ethics. ethical stuff and all that. And once this is all being cleared, we were thinking of sharing the finding by submitting an article to this platform, which is Nexus, the magazine for researchers to share their findings. So maybe somebody will pick up from there. And I think it came to me. Thank you very much, Prof. Soba, because you just, you have given us some thoughts that okay, you have to share this, because we have shared this with you, people from UNIMAS, but we have not shared it with with our own colleagues in our departments. So could be that will be a very good suggestion to because you have to understand that in a research university like ours, when we did our research, when we have the finding, the next thing is how are we going to develop an article based on these findings in order for us to publish it and make it it's more on the KPI side. But after thinking about what you have pointed out just now, I think it's we have to go more on sharing between communities of people here in the administrator, or even with the office of the TNCAA and all that first. Could be. Thank you very much, Prof. So
thank you very much, Dr. Narina and Dr. Hadijah for the sharing. Like I said, it's a very valuable finding. A lot can be learned, and when we move forward, I think from the findings that you have shared, it's like creating an awareness among us as educators. What we should do, think of other ways of planning our activities and so on. And I think, like in UNIMAS, just to share with you, the feedback that we receive from our students, from our SOTL Scholarship of Teaching and Learning grants, we channel it back to Center for Applied Learning and Multimedia, where Dr. Azra is, and they will then take their feedback and then make it aware, create an awareness among the campus community, because your sample is coming from UTM. So I'm sure, if it goes back to the university and eventually to the students, that is also an important component of the research. So thank you again for the response. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I think I do believe that SOTL here in UTM is yes, we have the platform where we are still we are still in the process of buy-in, the buy-in stage of SOTL in UTM, because in my case, I have conducted quite a lot of not quite a lot, just last year it was like 2 or 3 workshop on SOTL, just to promote SOTL research, which is very quite personal in terms of like we are going to research on our own teaching in order for us to improve our teaching and to enhance students' learning. But I think with your view just now, it made me started to think and how can we use this kind of finding from this kind of research and cross over to SOTL. It makes me thinking along that line now. So thank you very much again for the suggestion, Prof.
Okay, so thank you, Prof. So any more questions from the participant? Okay, so I would like to ask Dr. Hadijah first. So in the emotional regulation strategies, right, you use to overcome the psychological effect of the students. Can you give the examples on how we can handle the cognitive appraisal? Some example when dealing with cognitive.
When it comes to the cognitive appraisal, right, what I did in my class is I give the students a certain kind of reflective activity. So there are certain kind of questions for them to be aware about their train of thoughts, about their feelings, and what are the things that they can do. Can do meaning that most of the time the students feel that they do not have control about wanting the environment. I mean, they're beyond control. But what are the things that they can control? Sometimes they overlook that part as well. So one of the activity that I give for my postgraduate students, in this case, I give them an assignment whereby I ask them to narrate their thoughts and feelings in a form of story. So they have to use a third party to make themselves anonymous, third party identifier, meaning that rather than give them using their own name, so they can even change gender for this particular activity to make themselves unknown. For example, if the classes there is only one male, so if this person use he, everybody will know actually this one is coming from him. So from that particular story, we use a lexical analysis in which we point out certain kind of themes, and which in this kind of themes is create certain kind of awareness about their feelings, about their thinking, and then what should they do about it. And then this when the theories comes in. Sometimes students find it difficult, right, to find the connection between theory and practice. In this case, having that kind of activity, they learn, okay, this is the way I feel, and then what are the cognitive strategies which based on certain specific theories to as a means to regulate their feelings. So I try to scale it down to my undergraduate students. Rather than using stories, I use cartoon, meaning I ask them to find certain kind of comic strips, which is specific to events in school. I teach educational psychology as well as fundamental pedagogy, asas pedagogy. So using this cartoon or comic strip, which portray a certain kind of educational setting, and then they can reflect. These are the school's setting. If I'm a teacher myself, how am I going to deal with this? So in a way that indirectly they are using cognitive appraisal. Rather than say, okay, you are using this cognitive appraisal, how to change your thoughts and what's not. So rather than having that kind of some sort of like very direct some sort of like instruction to them, I hope that they can practice and make it as a habit to change their train of thoughts when they are dealing with certain kind of emotions or situation. How to go about it? What are the chances for them to use certain kind of ways or solution? What are the possible consequences? And normally when it comes to that activity, I will put certain kind of activity, a mini activity in which that they have to discuss. Sometimes that's why I like to use a Padlet, whereby they can remain anonymous if they want, or sometimes they feel that the need to acknowledge, okay, this is coming from my idea, so they put their names. So there's an option. Is sometimes students feel that they need to have a certain kind of identity. I want to retain my identity. I want my opinion heard, to be heard by others. So I use that. In this case, in short, I incorporate the cognitive appraisal in terms of the strategies in classroom activities. Rather than telling them, okay, you use this, you use this theories and what's not. For example, like cognitive behavioral therapy, ways for cognitive strategies and whatnot. So rather than using that, I mean, I embed that in classroom activities. So they go through the process of the cognitive appraisal. Yeah. But I think it's the challenge is I think I want to share is about how to structure the instruction, so so all the underlying theories and principles can be implemented. I think that is the most challenging part. I think, Dr. Dayang, I think sometimes you feel like, okay, how am I going to, yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Hadijah. So we have a comment from Prof. Sova. She said that thank you for the valuable sharing. So I will definitely think of activities that reduce students' online time, but ensure that the activities are as effective. Okay. So thank you. I think no more question from the participants. So thank you, Dr. Narina and also Dr. Hadijah for the insightful and also informative sharing. So I would like to conclude our workshop today. We hope that you found this sharing valuable for all the participants to deal with the students' psychology, especially in dealing with the online learning. Okay, and then we hope that you will be getting some inspirations in the online teaching and also in the how to handle the students' psychology things. Okay, so thank you very much for your time and participation in this workshop. So thank you again, Doctor and Dr.
Thank
Narina.
you.
Okay.
Thank you, and thank you for having us today.
Okay. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.